Okay, let's start. Hello, everybody. Welcome again at our EBA online platform. Welcome to our regular online meeting. Let me share my screen to show today's agenda. So today we have 5 speakers. First will be Giovanni Ricciulli, Mr. Giovanni Ricciulli, our honorary advisor of EBA, former ambassador of Italy to Armenia. He will speak from Italy, and it will be very interesting to hear what is the situation there. And then we will continue according to our agenda. Then we have a little change in our agenda, actually. Mr. Dietmar Stiel, he will present his presentation at the end. So after Mr. Ricciulli, Natalia Gogoberishvili will speak from France. Then we have Ms. Armenian from Unitrans, and Diana Movsesyan from Schneider, and at the end it will be Mr. Dietmar Stiel. So, Giovanni, the floor is yours. You can start.
Thank you, Diana. Hello everybody. Thank you for this very useful initiative. Generally speaking, as you know, Italy has been hit very hard by coronavirus, with around 229,000 assessed cases and almost 33,000 dead. The severity of the epidemic has prompted the authorities to be extremely cautious and to adopt very stringent measures. According to a recent poll, from around 77% of Italians actually responded that the greatest concern, even more so than the disease itself, was its consequences on the economy, with a high percentage fearing losing their jobs and a high percentage fearing worried for the survival of their companies. Indeed, the authorities' action has affected the economy, and some sectors which are very important for Italy, for example, tourism, and some areas such as small and medium enterprises. European Union sources estimate that Italy will see a 9.5 reduction of GDP this year, followed by a recovery of 6.5, while Eurozone should register 7.7 and 6.3 respectively. The fight against coronavirus has made the value added of Italian manufacturing drop considerably by 3.4%. But it's not only the domestic measures which have caused this, it's also the connection with other economies. For example, of this 3.4%, 0.5 is direct consequence of the crisis in Germany, and 1.9% that of decreased demand from the rest of the world. Lockdown by our trade partners has had great repercussions on textiles and leather, minus 4.1, electric appliances, minus 4, machinery, minus 3.8, vehicles, minus 3.7, and food and beverages, 1.9. The consequences have been different according to the sectors envisaged. Of the sectors that you highlighted in calling this meeting, the insurance sector has, of course, also suffered. Many companies have tried to cope with the situation, offering packages, facilitations to clients in the so-called red zones. Some have included the consequences of the crisis in their health policies. Some others have assisted retailers or producers who had to interrupt their activities. But it's maybe still premature to assess the overall consequences of coronavirus on the insurance sector, because it's still not very clear, unfortunately, what the long-term consequences of the epidemic will be. What can be said is that the macroeconomic consequences of a crisis will hit insurance companies, for example, by affecting the car market. On the positive side, it's possible also that this increased sense of insecurity might incentivize people into buying insurance products, health insurances or life insurances. But the sector also depends on interest rates, and so that is going to be another question mark for the future. Other sectors which have been greatly affected, tourism and transportation. We fear in Italy more long-term consequences, but of course, let's see if this can be avoided. It has been estimated that these combined sectors have or will suffer a loss of turnover of at least 20% in 2020, with a rebound in 2021, but this still remains to be seen. If the emergency should last longer and not finish in the next, or not, let's say, improve in a sustainable way in the next months, losses could be even as high as 41%, which is what has been estimated. More specifically, turnover of hotels has dropped 37.5% this year, transport 25%, airport services by 22.5%, and also the organization of trade fairs and conferences has been affected 25%. The epidemic has also had consequences on society and its approach to transaction, with retail sales of goods other than food collapsing, online purchases surging. Prices seem to have become more important for consumers than before, at least during the lockdown period. And there have been also positive consequences on recourse to cashless and contactless transactions. This in a country like Italy, which traditionally is not too inclined to resort to electronic transactions. So there are also some changes in the behavior of people, which are very noticeable. I could mention other ones, recourse to private transportation rather than public transportation, etc. But I think this happens a bit everywhere in the world. The government, the authorities' response to the crisis has concerned the whole of Italy, at times also causing some sectors and some regions who were faring better than other ones to press for a quicker return to some form of normality. The government has approved several packages, which are very complex and articulate, providing different forms of support, but generally including measures such as helping businesses have access to loans, deferring tax payments, granting bonuses to individual professionals who haven't been working, hiring extra medical staff, supporting the health system, etc. The latest package has been discussed in these days, and it should prepare the recovery of the Italian economy. It aims at supporting families, businesses, but also putting a basis for the country's recovery. It will see the equivalent of 55 billion euros go to family and businesses. The latter will notably benefit from a 4 billion reduced tax pressure through deferrals and cuts. Tax reduction, of course, will lead to an increase in liquidity for companies, which is good. Also, the state is guaranteeing loans. Companies that are experiencing particular hardships can see the state guarantee 100% of loans up to 30,000 euros over a period of 10 years. and 80% for loans up to 800,000 euros over a period of 30 years. Other measures which have been included in these packages are the renewal of social protection mechanisms, such as those for people who are jobless, promote or risking to lose their jobs, promoting the training of workers, providing subsidies to the most vulnerable, extending additional funding to health system, supporting agriculture, which is important in this period, but also developing green economy, supporting research, etc. It's a very long business. There has been also a lot of talk about digitizing and simplifying procedures, which should be very important. So another thing I should mention is that the crisis has hit very hard self-employed professionals, some 60% of whom have suffered important losses this year. The situation now is improving. We finished phase 1, which was a strict lockdown, and we're in phase 2 since May 5th. And then on May 18th, there has been a further opening. On June 3rd, there should be another opening still. Of course, now the risk is that some people might take this progress, this very good progress, for granted and fall back into behaviors that unfortunately we cannot afford to indulge in anymore. Especially this in regions which have been impacted less, for example, some regions of southern Italy. There are still guidelines affecting very much everyday life. We all have to wear masks if we go inside shops. I see a lot of shops have adapted very swiftly. At least here in Rome, there has been a lot of compliance. You also have people who are not so responsible everywhere, but all in all, people have taken this thing until now very seriously. And so let's hope it will continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Giovanni, for interesting presentation from Italy. Actually, if somebody has questions to Giovanni, maybe it's good to ask it after each presentations. Do we have questions? If not, you can raise your hands, or you can write it in chat, or you can move it at the end after all presentations. If somebody raised hand and I didn't see it, you can just unmute yourself and ask your question. Sometimes we have technical issues as well.
I have a question. There is any estimation that will come with the flights from Italy with Ryanair, any Italians to Armenia? Or being European Union country, they are not allowed to travel outside of European Union?
I'm very much interested to know myself, so I'm following closely, but I have seen no certain indication as yet as to resumption of flights towards Armenia. We all hope that they will be resumed, of course, quickly.
But are there special flights for diplomats or for, I don't know, special people that need to fly urgently?
There have been special flights organized by Armenian authorities in the initial moments of the crisis to help Armenians who were stranded return to Armenia. Basically, connections are very, very limited. I understand that Belavia has some connections, but they are not on a regular basis. We still have to see the major, well, not the major, but let's say the more frequent flyers, frequently utilized flights such as Ukrainian or Ryanair make their decisions. But as yet, I have no indications. I am waiting eagerly as well.
Thank you very much. If we don't have other questions, I would suggest our next speaker, Ms. Natalia Gogoberishvili, our new member from French company EBA. And before presentation about current situation in France, and you have also opportunity to present your company briefly, just to introduce yourself to our members to know EBA, this online platform as well. Welcome on EBA board, actually. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Diana. So I will do a brief presentation of IDEMIA as a newcomer in EBA, and then I will go through the situation in France. So IDEMIA is the result of the coming together of two French companies, Overture Technologies and Morpho Identity and Security, which have joined forces to form the new leader in trusted identities for an increasingly digital world. IDEMIA is a 2.2 billion euro company which employs more than 15,000 people around the world with 80 nationalities. And we operate in two major customer segments. First one is the private sector, B2B, and the second one is the public sector, which we call business to government. So in the private sector, we are trusted by the financial institutions, including most of the world's largest banks. We produce the payment cards, and also we provide the digital solutions for payments. We are also trusted by more than 500 mobile operators, including leading mobile operators worldwide. We produce here the secured SIM cards, and we provide the digital solutions to the mobile operators. Also, we work very hard on the next generation of communication channel, which is 5G, very popular this time. Also, we produce and provide contact and contactless biometric devices, and we serve automotive industry. And we provide digital transformation solutions for secure enterprise transactions. This is for the private sector. And for the public sector, we have a business unit called Public Security and Identity. And in this business unit, we provide the complete identity chain management solutions to the governments, starting from data collecting, identity documents production, passports, identity cards, driving license, health cards. We personalize the identity documents, and also we do the issuance of the documents. In this field, in identity solutions, we have more than 130 customers. For example, the most advanced identity card worldwide, Estonian ID card, is produced by IDEMIA. And to give you another example, in North America, 35 out of 50 US states trust IDEMIA to deliver their driving licenses. And in public security, we provide different type of solutions like video analytics, biometric databases to the police, to the border guards, to the airports. And we also collaborate very closely with intelligence agencies. And just to give you an example, we are the supplier of the world's largest biometric deployments project, Aadhaar, in India, with a multi-biometric database of over 1.2 billion people. So we have a footprint everywhere in the world. So we cover, we have factories covering all the regions, and we serve, we have a service centers in more than 30 countries in the world. And last year, we have produced close to 3 billion cards, documents, and terminals in our factories. And we have personalized SIM, payment, MIN, or identity documents in our service centers. So myself, I present IDEMIA as a sales manager in South Caucasus region for B2G, so business to government segment. So coming back to COVID situation in France now. So based on today's information, France has 145K people infected by coronavirus. 65K people has been recovered, and 28 cases of death has been reported, unfortunately. Now, since 3 weeks, the coronavirus has been progressing more slowly, and because of this slow progression, the French government was allowed to start the confinement process in France, and they have separated this process in 3 stages mainly. So first stage, which has been started from May 11th. So strict lockdown is over since this date, and almost 440K companies have restarted to work. Now it is possible also to travel up to 100 kilometers from home without any certificate. Public transport is operating normally, but it is mandatory to wear a mask. All shops are open except the cafes and restaurants. And now the French government is asking to the companies to continue to work home office wherever is possible in order to limit the crowds in transport and also at work. For example, IDEMIA's head office is located in La Défense. This is the biggest business district in Europe. And we have 1,500 people working at head office, but now only 20% of the employees are allowed to go to the office each week, as it is still necessary to keep the distance between the employees. Our factories did not stop the production during the confinement periods. We took all the sanitary measures to continue the production of the documents, because they are considered like the documents are still very demanding. The governments are demanding still the documents. Also, stage 2 will start in France in the beginning of June. So we are waiting for the Prime Minister's speech for this Thursday to have more details. And normally in mid-summer, the state of health emergency will end. The Senate voted for an end date on July 10th. Regarding the economic situation, it is tough for everybody, and each sector is suffering of this lockdown. But the scale of damage of the economy caused by the coronavirus will be clearer in the upcoming future, I think, because it is difficult to make an exact review of damage as of today. But what can I say is that the priority of the French government today is to avoid job loss. And after the 110 billion euro support plan, now they are preparing a recovery plan. For example, a hiring bonus for the companies, or some sectoral measures for the automobile industry. All tracks are being studied, and this recovery plan will be made public very soon. And in our sector, we see the impacts and a lot of challenges on the border control in the airports for the passenger flow facilitation markets. And we are trying to adapt our portfolio to address this evolution of the markets to the new normal, including the temperature screening, mask detection, also the touchless solutions in the airports to go through the gates and to pass the border control. And also we see a decrease, in addition, we see a decrease of demand on travel documents as the borders are closed. and the tourism is closed for now for everybody. So that's it. What can I say for today? If you have any questions, please ask.
Any questions? You can just unmute yourself and ask your questions.
Hi, I'm sorry. I have a question regarding tourism. I just want to ask.
Can you introduce yourself? Sorry.
Yeah, Nona, I'm from Austrian Airlines. You know, we do not have flights now, and we're just waiting when we will resume our flights. Just it's interesting. Are you allowed the French from France, for example, if Armenians will travel, they should keep this quarantine, or there is no any quarantine period for tourism? For the tourists that would like to travel, yeah.
So at this moment, the borders are closed for non-European countries, and they, if you go to France, you have to do 15 days quarantine. It is mandatory, but Prime Minister will speak this Thursday, and we will have more details regarding the tourism in France and the measures that they might keep for the quarantine for the persons who will arrive at the French territory.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Okay, then we are moving to our next speaker, Ms. Armenian, who is already also EBA board member, business development manager of Unitrans, and which is also exclusive representative of the DHL in Armenia. I think it will be very interesting to know your presentation from the logistic company point of view. You know much better than some others what's going on in our market. Herine?
Yes, hello. Glad to see everyone, and let me share my screen. I wish all of us good health, first of all, and just a second. Please just let me know as soon as you see my screen.
Yes, we see it.
Okay. I would like to share our experience during these last 3 months, let's say from March, as soon as this COVID-19 situation has been officially, shutdown has been officially announced in Armenia. And let me very briefly just introduce our company, and then in few words, and then I'll go to the actual situation that we faced. So Unitrans is one of the first freight forwarding companies founded and operated in Armenia. And as Diana told, starting from 2000, we are a member of Scheduled Transat and Ocean freight forwarding worldwide network, which later was called as DHL, renamed to DHL Gogoberishvili. And the mission of our company is to provide our customers, Armenian businesses, and not only Armenian businesses, but also other countries' businesses, with superior level of service at competitive rates. And for Armenian businesses, we try to increase influence of the blockade with our services, with our business, with our operation. So as you may know, Armenia actually has only two ways to get cargoes. It's Iran, which is under sanctions now, and actually Georgia. Actually, not the only, but actually the only country via which we are able to get our cargoes. And I would share our experience based on the services that we provide, because this is the information that we collect and we get. It would be truck transportation, air transportation, ocean transportation, combined transportation, when, for example, you get a shipment partially by air and the next part by truck, for example, or by ocean and truck, which is common for Armenia for ocean shipments. And then we are also specialized in project transportation, which is related to very often to heavily and oversized cargo transportation. So let's now start with truck transportation situation. The main problem we faced was quite significant delays in transit time, especially related to shipments from Europe and to Europe. There was a lack of trucks because some drivers didn't come to work, stopped their work. Some companies also limited their operations, and borders between EU countries were more or less closed. And ferry in Italy has stopped its operation for about 2 months. It started its operation. We restarted its operation maybe a month ago. And also when we collect cargoes from warehouses, these warehouses were also either closed or with limited access. So why the round trip of trucks, the period of round trips has been prolonged. So why it resulted in a lack of trains. But good news is that the situation is gradually coming to a normal one. It's improving, and step by step we are coming to our usual life. The major influence was in air transportation, because, as you know, the airlines stopped their operations in Armenia at least, and all over the world also. And for many years, Armenia has only possibility for air cargo transportation through passenger aircraft. We hadn't any cargo aircraft landed in Yerevan. So because of it, we all can understand that it was impossible to get cargoes by air to Yerevan directly. Only Belavia worked. But their aircrafts were small enough to take quite big cargoes. Even longer than 1 meter, they didn't accept cargoes. So our only possibility was to use cargo air flights to and from Tbilisi, but the rates were so high, became so high, that actually only few companies which had really very urgent cases could allow themselves to do this air transportation. And we had to also transport our cargoes by truck to and from Tbilisi for this purpose. It was additional cost. Good news, I would say very good news for Armenia is finally, after a very long period, on May 10th, a cargo aircraft landed in Yerevan directly. I mean, during a very long period, we got all our cargoes by air through Tbilisi. And now we have once a week, every Sunday, cargo aircraft which lands in Yerevan directly from Liège airport in Belgium to which is able to bring cargoes. And it's a good, also very good opportunity to export directly from Armenia to Europe. Very short, and maybe a little bit expensive compared to the truck transportation, but anyway, it's a very good option for cargoes that are designated for air transportation. And also for several, maybe 2 weeks, Russian airlines also have flights to from Armenia. So situation is coming to somehow improving now also. Maybe ocean transportation is the sector less influenced in our experience by the COVID-19 situation. But I have to note that actually our company performs ocean transportation mainly from Asia and particularly from China. Of course, we do some transportation by ocean from Australia, Africa, Americas, but the main part is of course China. And I have to say that the major lockdown was in February, March period when China was closed. And then China restarted its operation, and Armenia, Europe, and the rest world closed their borders. So in terms of ocean transportation, we can speak about some influence on February, March, not from February, May up to now period. Of course, there were some delays in transit time related to worldwide economy lockdown and significant decrease in number of cargoes that were transported previously by ocean. So why there were some delays in transit time. Some shipping lines also somehow increased their rate, but generally speaking, everything is okay in ocean transportation now, generally speaking. Concerning the project transportations and heavy lift and oversized cargo transportation, maybe this is the sector that's the most influenced by COVID-19 situation, because it is not only the matter of Armenia, but it is a matter of the whole world. I mean, the project transportation is the transportation of big number of containers, air shipments, and trucks for some special project. And we are usually involved also in local delivery, in customs clearance, loading, unloading, etc. And usually such projects are performed by big multinational corporations. And the situation is either the shipments numbers are decreased, or the projects that were planned for the nearest future, I haven't got any feedback concerning the certain planning now. I mean, maybe they are restudying the feasibility of this project or something else, I don't know. I hope it would be recovered also some time ago, and we would be able to continue such transportations too. Also, I would like to speak a little bit, present a little bit questions that we are most frequently asked about. The questions about the sectors of products that are affected, were affected more according to our experience during export or import to Armenia. Actually, according to our experience, we cannot point any special type of, according to our experience, we cannot point any special type of products or sectors which we are influenced more than others. Actually, all the products and sectors were influenced equally, according to our experience. Just for some period, very short period, maybe in the very beginning of quarantine in Armenia, maybe for 1 week period, we got inquiries for export of masks, medical masks to Russia, but Armenian government limited the export, maybe because of security reasons, to maybe to provide the needed amount inside the country. But later this limitation was removed, so it was very short period. And concerning the products that were imported to Armenia, again the same situation. Nothing, we cannot point out any specific product or sector. But again, at the beginning of quarantine in Russia, some export from Russia of foodstuff products was prohibited also for about 1 week. And we can say that most vulnerable shipments were from Italy. And for some period, we just couldn't pick up or we couldn't transport already collected cargoes. And of course, there are the airport shipments. Concerning the control on imports or exports by customs, has it been increased? According to our experience, nothing very special. Maybe there were some delays, not maybe by customs, but by a health service at the borders while making health checkups of the drivers. But there were no significant delays in Armenia. Concerning the transit countries through which we get our cargoes, again, nothing very special, although there were again health checkups in, for example, Georgian, Turkish borders. And I don't know if it is related to the COVID-19 situation or not, but I would like to share with you this information. Maybe starting from 2 weeks ago, Turkey, I don't know why, but from time to time, Turkish customs start some new procedure or restrict their procedures. And maybe 2 weeks ago, Turkish authorities began to very thoroughly inspect all the trucks and all the certificates, and it caused from 2 to 4 days delays in Bulgaria, Turkey, and Turkey-Georgia borders. I don't know if it is related to COVID-19 situation or it's something else, but it takes place. And finally, the difficulties that our company faced overall. First of all, increased rates for air transportation. They raised significantly. And it was very difficult to send and get cargoes by air because although we used Tbilisi airport, but again, airlines also limited their access to Tbilisi to their flight number. And the limited number of trucks in Europe and Russia for some period in Russia and in Europe, but the situation is recovering now. It was a delay, very big delay because of the ferry in Italy. It stopped its operation, but it is now it is again okay. So that increased transit time of our shipment, and also, unfortunately, or maybe very logically, the number of our shipments compared to the same period in last years reduced significantly, maybe 40%. And of course, it's not good for our company, but it reflects the economic situation. And what measures may help to overcome the reduction, the situation? As a freight forwarding company, we are very tightly connected to companies doing business with international trade. So we assume that any measures helping companies to improve their business situation will for sure help us. And why not financial support to our company or some loans or grants without any percentage would be also very useful. This is all what I wanted to share with you, and you are welcome with your questions. And also, I'm glad to inform you that our company is eager and would be glad to help you in case you have some shipments to work out some goods and new possibilities in this situation to get your shipments by the lowest possible way. We are eager to do it, and we announce it to everybody, and especially to EBA members. You are feel free to send us inquiries, and we will try to make some kind of consulting for you. Choose some most effective ways to do transportation to and from Romania. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Please unmute. Please unmute yourself and ask your questions, if any. I think your presentation was very detailed. Okay, anyway, you have contacts of each other, and we are encouraging you also, if you have any questions, requests, or need for any support, you are also welcome to connect with each other or via our platform. You can always contact me and our staff if you need something. And the next speaker is representative of Schneider Group LLC, head of Yerevan office, Ms. Diana Movsisyan. Diana, the floor is yours.
Yeah, can you see me? It's fine. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And let me tell you a little bit more about the current situation from the consultancy services point of view. Perhaps it would be interesting for you to say what is the overall picture, what's the post-COVID situation. And let me share with you my screen. Just a bit of this. So can you see it?
I can see your screen, but it's not presentation yet. If you open the file.
Actually, I did. Let's look at this, okay. My screen. So,
Now we can see. Good.
Oh, I did. So, well, a few words about current situation with COVID in country. Actually, I think that it's more or less similar to other countries, and our gradual removal of these barriers and restrictions and consequences of an economy of the country and public health is yet to be evaluated. Well, as you probably know, we have started state of emergency prolonged till June 13, and restrictions applied on the whole territory were more or less regular removals. And the right of removement is restricted. in an attempt to mitigate these consequences, support packages for several types of economic activities are implemented to support businesses. And the situation in the country in general, sure, there has been a decline in all sectors of the economy. And this is actually my view, my overview of the situation with the most affected areas. And for sure, as I said, the decline in all sectors of the economy. However, overall, tourism and HoReCa as a sector is probably the most affected by the crisis, and experts say that it's affected by experts, particularly to Russia, and all this additionally affected by the drop down of oil prices. However, it is in Russia, but in Armenia in April, economic activity declines by 17.2%, and it's the largest decline per month since 2011. And here the major sectors decline in April only, and you see that economic activity declines: construction, internal trade, turnover, volume of services, and this trading from here actually, export and import services. This is most overall the picture of the country. However, I have collected some information from our database, and just to provide you with more or less affected by the COVID on this slide, which is from Schneider Group Professional Database. It's just an overview of our practical experience and shouldn't be treated as a basis for any statement or any, I don't know, justification of overall situation in the country. And just, however, these sectors are more or less interrelated, and as the practice showed us during this period from March to May, actually the most affected situation was with a strong adverse effect was in transportation, customs and brokerage services, production and retail. Well, why? Because our clients faced with severe problems actually. That was closure of borders, transportation volume decrease, business total lockdown. As there was a shortage in supply chain or exporting some categories of product that fall under government restrictions, and closure of production units. One of the most significant issues was staff and labor force, how to act and how to react, how to treat COVID situation, whether that could be a force majeure or treated as a force majeure, which is just has to be fight with. However, success, I think, we more or less successfully dealt with it, but the main problems are yet to come, I think. And because practice shows that a lot of questions that we will receive, a lot of questions that were related to closure of business up to liquidation. There were delays in supply terms due to significant outage, the customs bodies for suspension or shutdown of production units, and organization of work from home. There was a really real total mess with our customers' requests and demands. Perhaps from retail, most of the questions were related to legal aspects of organization of online shops. They tried to move from retail from business centers and trade malls to online platforms and online shops, and that's where from the organizational work of the staff, payments, etc. But what was very interesting for us that were customer support services and online services were relatively resilient to the situation in the country. I think this is because of increasing demand in services, purchases to funerals. Actually, everything becomes online. So, and for consultancy services, this is another interesting reaction to COVID and post-COVID situation. What we have now, that was legal, tax, accounting, and outsourcing services our company provides to its clients. The volume of requests received during March-May 2020 2020, it really increased actually, and that means that invoices actually again very increased. But I think this is just a temporary increase, which was certainly connected with COVID and problems it created so far to our customers. Well, to some extent, this is a positive thing in all this mess. To the contrary, I assume this is just the beginning of the post-COVID long rehabilitation period for the economy and people in general. And I think that I do very much hope actually that there will be a time, and hopefully very soon, we will look back on this time and reflect on how we dealt with the hardship it caused us. And I think we will solve these problems as well. And so that was it actually on my side. Should you have any questions, I'm ready to answer them. And my presentation, just for sharing. So I think, yeah, I did it.
So, questions?
I just have a general question for everyone, maybe. Do you know
Yep.
when?
I beg your pardon, your voice is.
You cannot hear me?
Ah.
It's okay now?
Yeah, thank you.
I was saying that I have a general question regarding the situation in Armenia. Where are you going to open the borders for tourists coming from Europe, for example? Someone has the information about this? Because,
You mean to open for international tourism, right?
yes, right. For example,
So
from France.
Do not have access to such information. However, Aeroflot announced that they will start their flights, but it's not an official announcement. They will start their flights mid-August till the end of the August. But Ryanair has announced recently that they will start their flights from July. But there is no official statement or announcement from the government. That's why I don't think that we will be able to borders at least till the end of July.
Okay. And in general, you are invited to work from home, or you are allowed to meet in personally people. For example, if you want to go to see someone in a meeting in this office, are you allowed to go to see this person, or it's
Depends.
not allowed?
Depends on type of business. Actually, depends on type of business. For consultancy services, namely where we are operating, this is for legal tax accounting. We are not allowed to work from office. This should be organized remotely under the commandant decree. However, as the head of the office is still here from office, for several type of activities, it is allowed to come to office, provided that you are in compliance with all these restrictions and preventive measures that are declared by this decree. And actually, again, some type of activities are totally prohibited. We'll see just what will be the situation with the pandemic after June, and after that we can see that whether we will open rest or will allow the rest activities to operate.
Thank you.
I have a question actually to Diana. Just interesting your opinion from your point of view. Do you think measures that our government conducted was enough to support our business representatives? I understand that it's never enough actually, but do you think there are some additional measures that government might provide now that they didn't provide before? And do you have any some unique ideas on what else can be done to support business representatives, not only from government point of view of financial support, but something else?
What to do to support them? Actually, the only thing is just to remove all these barriers and try to fight with this economic decline, but that's not the case in this case, because we have to think about public health as well. From government point of view, many of our clients, they said that there was not enough support from the government, and they were demanding to have some tax payments delays, to provide them with some tax removal of some, I don't know, maybe restrictions, or to provide them with some kind of support, additional support from tax services. The main problem was with these loans that you have to take from banks. Business was claiming about this situation, which is very difficult to pay this interest, to do something. But they different. I think that we have to ask sectors per sectors. What is your main? Because if for retail, for example, it's another problem to organize work from home and to switch on online platform. They should. I think that there are completely different problems. For construction, problems are more or less the same, like with I don't know, for a hotel business, for restaurant business, the problems are similar. I think we should ask the representatives of the sectors and not consultancy companies, because we serve our clients based on their demand, based on their request. And as the practice shows, some of our clients were not ready, they were not ready at all to this situation. However, part of them was ready. They said, we have some kind of monetary funds, and that we could survive during this period, but they would prefer to have some government, etc. I don't know, maybe it is better to understand business and government dialogue, to start some business and government dialogue, just to understand what their problems, how to support them. I don't know.
Okay, other questions? Okay, other ideas, maybe some another member would like to share his ideas or request that we as EBA can present on different platforms later on. Actually, I'm encouraging you to share your ideas, because we have some technical issue with the Dietmar Stiel, who cannot join us. He has some technical issues, so I'm trying to support him online now. So if you can share your idea, we will win time, and we will get interesting information and ideas from you. No? Be active.
Okay. I said that he also said that the management discuss it.
Okay, let me check what's going on with our last speaker. Just give me a couple seconds. Okay. Tell something. Unmute yourself, Dietmar. Okay, I unmuted you. No?
Yes, I'm online. Did you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes. We can hear
Hello.
you. We don't see you. Can you switch on your camera? Yes, now we can see you. Welcome.
Sometimes takes time. Sorry for the delay, but I was just in another call, and I'm just finished this a little bit earlier than I finished it earlier than expected, but still with you. So hope all of you are okay. How many people are joining us here today?
Right now we are 18. We have been 24, but we are recording the meeting and we will share it later on. Okay, so you are the last speaker. Please share what's going on in Germany and what is the situation. When are you going to come back to Armenia, and all following that?
A lot of questions which I would like to give you a brief update how it is going in Germany. Probably most of you are anyway looking to the different numbers and the situation. Germany, as you might have seen, was one of the largest cases actually in Europe, because we are with 82 million also having the biggest population in Central Europe. Basically, Germany was doing not so bad, if you want, so comparatively to the other countries. By today, I just took some information from the internet, from the Robert Koch Institute, which is different than the university from the US. We have currently 180,000 cases. From the 180,000 cases, 162,000 are recovered. So the number of, if you want so, COVID patients is about 18,000 people. 18,000 people in a country like Germany with 82 million inhabitants is the number 0.0022. So the number is neglectably small, if you want. So if you compare to other kind of pandemics, the number is relatively small. We have 8,300 people died around the influence of the virus, which also comparatively to other countries, the number is small. Maybe you're asking yourself, why is the number so small? And I checked a little bit and made some analysis, and obviously all of us are following also the news and the situation about this. From what I found in my analysis like this. First of all, Germany has a very high testing capacity. Probably we have the highest testing capacity in Europe for automatic testing systems. We have probably the highest number of hospitals and of beds available. And the Ministry of Health had a very ambitious plan in the beginning of the pandemic. They said to the hospitals and the health sector, we want that you double the intensive bed capacity within 3 weeks. And they were actually able to if you want, so double the capacities in 3 weeks. Means what they did is they didn't do other operations. They put up other operations on hold or on the side for the moment. But with all these kind of measurements, they increased very fast the capacity of beds, intensive stations in Germany, which never was on the limit. They were still always 30%, sometimes 40% still capacity to take intensive care patients into the hospital. Another point was that due to the, how can I say, difficult and catastrophic situation in other countries in Germany, in the EU, Germany reacted very fast. They put strict relations on these pensioner houses. Nobody was allowed to enter there anymore. They were very strict in entering into the hospitals. They stopped immediately all kind of mass activities, etc., etc., which also lead to the situation that the infection rate was relatively low. And in my opinion, another point is probably the disciplined population of Germany also helped this. The people were really very disciplined in the beginning. Okay, some still make a bit kind of Corona parties, but the Corona parties were very limited. And then really people were disciplined, staying home, using all these kind of discipline set measurements, etc. In my opinion, this, and also if you look to other newspapers and information sources, these were the three most important points or arguments why the pandemic was not spread and why the death toll is also comparatively low. Maybe some information about economy. As you know, Germany is probably one of the largest export countries in the world. The export in the first quarter of 2020 was down around 3.4%, which is for Germany, which have, I think in the last 15 years, including also the time when there was the financial crisis in 2008, we have always growth in exports. It is the first time since I think 22 years or something like this that Germany has a negative rate in exports. The sales of cars in the first quarter, which is in Germany a very important measurement, is 27% down in the first quarter. The big impact from the Corona was not in the first quarter, it was in the second quarter. So we will see, in my opinion, very bad figures once the second quarter is the statistic for the second quarter is will be shown. Important other activities like this. German Ministry of Economy was acting very fast. What they did is they give help and direct help. I have friends and also relatives which receive sometimes 10,000 euros, sometimes 9,000 euros, sometimes 8,000 euros as single individuals working for like singles, lawyers and artists and all these kind of people. They get direct help, and this was very, how can I say it, unbureaucratic. They put it in the system. 10 days later, the 9,000 euros was on the account. So this was really very fast, and this supports these kind of companies and individuals substantially. This was not only for single entrepreneurs. This was for SME companies, which received up to 25,000 euros in the same scheme very fast. And this salary coverage scheme, that means the government takes 60 or 67% of the salaries from the employees direct as a support, and the company doesn't have to pay the social benefits. The social benefits and 67% of the salaries will be covered by the German state, if you want so. In most of, or in a lot of cases, the companies add the rest, sometimes 20%, so that the people get 80%, sometimes 100% of the salary. So the impact for the employees was relatively smooth or slow or not so hard due to these different schemes which were set and implemented immediately, which also led to the situation that the private consumption is only down 2.2%, which is in the first quarter. In the pandemic like this, where people cannot exit, in my opinion, the impact is for the economy, especially for these sectors, is strong, of course, but due to the help, it is still not as dramatic as it could be. Other activities is this job scheme thing was set up for the first 3 months, is extended now until end of July and can be extended again. All these kind of very hard, how can I say, heated sectors, restaurants, the event business, traveling sector, and smaller SMEs directly influenced, all received direct subvention on grant base for supporting the pandemic impact. I think all these kind of measurement activities had a very positive impact. The people didn't get into panic, and in my opinion, with these kind of activities and the current situation that in Germany most of the activities less than 50 people come together are anyway delocked. The people can travel, the people can also go again to restaurants, only these kind of multi-concerts, and when football has started but without viewers, etc. So the thing goes, when I'm talking to friends, relatives, etc., the whole scheme is back on certain limitations, of course, but the impact is not as hard as it could have been without these measurements and activities. In absolute, in my opinion, the government ran the crisis, which is obviously still on, but ran the crisis until this point professional, in common and joint target-oriented style. Thank you. I'm available for all kinds of questions.
Thank you, Dietmar, very much for interesting and detailed presentation. Actually, I have the one question.
Please.
You are working in Armenia 3 years, for about 3 years, right?
3 years and 1 month.
Yes. So you know everything from inside. What would you suggest to our government, to us? What can be done in the scope of limited capacity and limited financial opportunities of our state budget? What would you suggest to do to have fast and efficient recovery?
Naya, you know that our mandate is basically on economic terms. I can tell you something which we did in order to support the Armenian government and Armenia in general in order to overcome the impact and to support during the pandemic situation. We have a member which is a laboratory, and the German government set up a COVID-19 emergency scheme, which was round about 200 million euros, which were giving to companies and to institutions and to also partly individuals to fight the direct impact of the pandemic. DBV, together with GIZ, made an application for this member company in order to get the grant. Unfortunately, until now, the decision is not made, even so that the BMZ, who financed this via the GIZ implementation, promised that the decision process will be within the next 2 weeks. We are now, I think, in 19 days after putting the application, but you can imagine it's also a very hard job to spend in 2 weeks 200 million for projects. But I'm very hopeful that we will get these grants, which is for automatic testing. In Armenia is no automatic testing at the moment. Every test which is done in the capacity they have is done manually, which takes not only 3 days, has also a very high error factor. The error factor by manual doing is relatively high. Some experts said this is only 70% is okay. Sometimes say it's 60%. Is varying a bit from laboratory to laboratory. But the investment which will be financed through this grant will for an automatic testing capacity. The machine comes from Germany, and it will triple the current around about 800 tests capacity of Armenia per day. This machine makes 2,400 per day. So my suggestion is keep fingers crossed that we get this grant in order to in order to increase and improve testing capacities in Armenia.
Thank you. Other questions?
Yes, Giovanni, please.
Hello.
Hey, Giovanni.
Nice. Hello. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Question. Just I wanted to add something because you very rightly highlighted the importance of government intervention in this crisis, which is essential. The importance of medical action, sort of accurate intelligence action. We've seen this in Italy. We've seen the region of Lombardy and the region of Venice, which are neighboring regions, adopt different strategies, and the region of Venice has had good results because of testing, I think, and also keeping down the numbers of those who went to hospitals, etc. But then there is a third factor, which is it's a bit a reply to Diana's question, the social one. People need to understand that this is an epidemic and that social distancing works. We applied it very, very strictly for 2 months and it's paying off. So this is a message that governments need to send to people and reach out to them on this issue.
Yes. In Germany, you know, they made this very clear. The message was really spread it very hard and in very, how can I say, a drastic style. They showed the cases from Spain, France, Italy, etc., etc., and they said to the people, if you want this, you follow what you did in the past. If you don't want to see this scheme, you must be careful and discipline. This is the message they get. And the people understood. They were afraid. They were like this. Even today in polls, when you hear these public polls, still 80% of population in Germany is following the rules and what Merkel said to them and said, be strict, make this. Otherwise, you just open the TV and look what happens in Spain, the UK, etc., etc. When you are not disciplined, when the system doesn't run, or when the information is not get clearly to the people. In my opinion, it's a question of PR, is a question of clear information and strict, you know, letting them know and understand, look there what happened. If you want the same, you go and meet in people, you make groups, you make party, etc. Then you see the results.
Absolutely. But I think it is also an issue of culture. Like, you know, that Armenian people will like kisses and hugs. So for us, it is a little bit more difficult, and we are not so disciplined or like as Germans. So for us, it is a little bit difficult. But I would say that our government is doing pretty good job on doing this PR, advertising, booklets, video, and different things. So yeah, public education is the most important thing, as always, everywhere, not only regarding this COVID, but everywhere. So we're doing our best.
Yes. In my opinion, if there is a kind of, can I say, advice or not? It's not a critic, but that they change it from being you know, locked in until now in Armenia everybody runs free around. In my opinion, the period of these two extremes were a little bit too short from my perspective point of view. I see it a bit because the people might not understand before we are locked in. Okay, now when we are free to run and to sit in restaurants and bars and so on, the pandemic is finished. No, it's not finished. This is the message must be, the pandemic is there. You must be careful and don't think it is finished. It's not finished. Just the opposite. It is worse. But with this, you know, from black to white, you might, or they might have the idea that this was kind of, you know, bad dreams, or some nights we are locked. Okay, now all of a sudden, pandemic is finished. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so once again, thank you very much. Herina, you have a question? Okay, you're welcome.
Yes, hello, Dietmar. I would like to ask about the main import country during You mentioned that for some period Germany became an importer, net importer, rather than exporter. And I wonder which country was the main importer to Germany for that period.
I didn't in the first question. I cannot hear very well. Which products we were talking about?
You mentioned that for some period Germany trade balance become negative in terms of it started to import more than export, right?
No. The growth rate sank, so we exported less. But usually in Germany, if we export less, we also import less. Our trade balance is still positive, and I think it needs 3 more epidemics in order to make it negative. Because also Germany is a strong exporter of these medical products. One of the largest mask factories for this M3 is in Essen in Germany. They have a huge factory there, and they are producing these masks. The US company, you know, this M3, this US company is big producer of these security masks. We have Dräger, we have a lot of the health sector is relatively big, and in the pandemic they were exporting a lot of chemicals, products, whatever for the, it's still, the trade balance is positive. It is a little bit less strong than it used to be.
Okay, thank you. I get
You're
you.
welcome.
But still, if it is less positive than previously, which country is more was more importing during that period? Do you know the country?
Which country can you? I didn't hear this so well. Which country
was importing more? I mean, import balance of which country to Germany became more?
Actually, I don't know. I don't know. I can only speculate, and I don't want to speculate on this issue, because for the moment the numbers are running. We have now the numbers of first quarter. The numbers for second quarter are coming in mid of July, so it's a bit too early. I don't know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so thank you very much for great presentation, and thank you all for your presentations. I was very glad to see you. I hope it was useful, and we are working hard to think how to make it more active and more interesting and more efficient and useful for our members. So thank you very much. We're finishing now our online conference. I wish you good health, keep strong, and again, as always, keep positive. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.